in the business of marketing a lot of the shows in the West at the moment. I work for the agency AKA, occasionally produce concerts and bits and pieces, but a big part of my focus is on getting the tickets sold, basically.
Which is good for me. I'm McGill, I'm a producer, and sort of done stuff very small scale up to large scale, music theatre, new writing. I don't think it's saying that the last show I did was a revival, the Pajama Game up in Shaftesbury. Yeah, that's
I'm Nigel Richards. I was the Phantom in Phantom of the Opera, but mostly known for being a dramaturg at the National Studio on new writing, and also my passion for new writing.
I'm Maltby. I'm a director and choreographer at New York. Great to be here. And yeah, I primarily do new musicals, so it's very cool.
Fab. So how this will work now is we'll go from each musical, and we only have about 6 to 7 minutes for each, so we have to keep our notes quite concise. And if there's a burning desire from one of you to give a note, then we will address that at the end. So let's start with the Dating Cycle by Verity Quaid and Rob Archibald. Panel, notes, feedback. How to take the next level?
I was just going to say, well, my first thing was this is obviously, sorry, is it? Hello.
Catherine.
Hello, Catherine. Hello. This is obviously what we saw tonight was individual pieces of. Is it a song cycle that you're aiming for, or is it more of weaving it round the narrative?
I'm not sure if that's the narrative that comes between the songs at the moment, but as far as I'm aware, they were in. First it was obviously all couples, and then they were individual couples throughout. But I'm no expert on representative, so
Sure.
I'm
No.
usually a primary school teacher,
So from what the composers told me was that at the moment they are looking for a book writer to link it all together. So if you're a book writer, get in touch. But at the moment, yes, it is sort of standalone pieces.
But it was very strong. I mean, the reason we kind of all unanimously agreed on that was the thing it needed, is because the characters already come through so strongly in those songs that we heard. Anything that wasn't a solo as well, the links between the characters already felt extremely genuine, just straight off the page, which is a wonderful thing for a musical to do.
Yeah, and I think like structurally, these songs don't sound like they're standalone songs. They don't have the context written within them, and it's they're not a full scene, which is not a bad thing. It's a wonderful thing, but it just means that they require context. And they require character, and that'll also help, I think, make them a little bit more specific. So I would just, if that's the direction that the writers are going, I would say go like head first into like really embracing narrative and character and book. Yeah.
I think when they get a book writer, the book will inform the musical textures, because at the moment it's a very mid-Atlantic sound, and I know that these two writers are English. So I'm interested if the book writer wants to say, okay, let's really set this in London. Then they have to have a rethink about tonally the sound of the whole show being about different voices in London. They might also want to raise the stakes, because at the moment they're characters who happen to sing rather than have a need to sing. So the book will give them all those springboards they need. So the book is their next avenue. It will dictate everything, specificity, tonal sound, everything they need. It's got to come from the book now.
Thank you. From anyone in the audience, any bits and pieces that can help Verity and Rob? No? Cool. They loved it. They loved it. Fabulous. Call you. Let's move on. All right, fab. Next piece, which we saw how in this order today, which was our life. So our plural life singular by John Hampton May and Andy McGregor.
Who's the representative here?
Oh, sorry, Callum.
Oh, hi, Callum.
Callum is our representative.
Well, I think it's interesting you say the book. I think this one, obviously, I checked halfway through, but I got it that it was already a play. It was already been. The book was,
in the past versus full.
yeah, so the book was the book was there first, and I think that's maybe the opposite way from the first one. I think that you have a strong book, so explore the songs in there. I think they were very, very. I put down here very conversational, funny. You know, seemed to just. Yeah, very snappy. There's good rhythms with it, so it seemed very dialogue, and I think that we're in the opposite.
Yeah,
way around.
I mean, I think that like the book was, the scenes were really, really specific and awesome. And I just wanted to know if they're gonna sing, which they do since it's a musical. Why? You know, what are you gonna learn more from the songs that you don't already get from the scenes? And I would say like push the musically and push lyrically to heighten emotion, not necessarily heighten the language, but heighten the emotion that allows them to sing. Because it kind of just felt like the scenes were continuing and now that we're singing. And I'd just like to know what songs are going to bring to the story. So I would just say like push it emotionally.
The play, and the musical play does build quite dramatically to great appeal.
But if there are going to be songs in it, it needs to have a different kind of distillation than a play does. Because necessarily a play has, they're distilled in different ways. And with songs, the stakes are raised, otherwise they wouldn't be singing. But also, just lyrically, it needs to be more distilled so that it doesn't sound like it's just more dialogue being sung. So you just need, that's your interesting route, is going, why do they sing? And what is the language in which they sing? And how is it different from dialogue? They have to explore that, and that will make it very interesting.
I can kind of only agree with all of this. The only thing I wrote down was that it felt very much like a really strong sitcom to me. It felt really great and fun. I was really enjoying it. I felt like the kind of musical identity of it was maybe a little bit yet to be found, but there's something there.
Yeah.
It's always an interesting concept. It's obviously an interesting journey to take to say that you've got the story there. So where can you change that? Where can you heighten things, but not in a sort of right, we're going to be very dramatic sort of scene.
Yeah.
Getting at, what you just said.
Yeah, that's why I use distillation rather than heightening.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? It's certainly don't have restoration fans or anything like that.
Yeah, as a show, I feel like it's there and there's a really strong base, but find the reason that it is a musical and make it a musical.
Yeah.
And thank God the book is there, because musicals live or die by the book, not by the score. Look at Mac and Mabel and Chess, Edwin Drood, they're all brilliant scores, but the books are terrible, and therefore they just don't get on. Yeah.
Anything from the audience that we can help John and Andy? Cool, so we're going to Skype our dear Tataya in.
Hey.
Tataya, can you hear us?
Hi, I couldn't hear that well. Is it possible to make it closer?
Closer, yes. Also, everything's been filmed as well, so we'll send you like the film version as well. So here's Tataya, everyone. Hi. Okay, so here's the panel.
It does feel a bit Eurovision. I'm saying it's like London calling. Why Mooney?
Okay. So, gentlemen and ladies, what is our notes for? Oh shoot, for Tataya.
We lost.
Oh no, I've lost her.
She was like, I can't.
Okay, we're back.
Okay, it's fine. I think.
Yeah. Okay.
I put down this is one of the things that obviously this is about, is trying to condense, you're having to try and condense something down to 15 minutes, which was obviously difficult to get the essence of. I feel that you did get the essence of I put down here, sorry, didn't condense, but it felt you got the essence of a film production. I felt that I was seeing a strong narrative all the way through, sort of beginning, middle, and end. But it's difficult, obviously, to get staff to push everything into the 15 minutes. Felt this did. I felt I was seeing. I mean, from the whole production.
Totally. I thought it sounded completely gorgeous. I really wanted it to. I wanted to be sat in a theatre. She's I'm gonna keep talking.
Yeah.
Why don't we just write these down for Taya?
Up against the screen. I'm gonna place these two.
I wanted to be sat in. I wanted to be sat in a theatre watching a full-scale production of it, really, really badly. I want to, as in a lot. It's not a terrible production, but I thought it sounded amazing, and it was one of the most engaging things I've seen in a setting like this for a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like really hard to have anything to say about it because it really felt like we were seeing like a strangely like shoved together small bits of a much bigger story. So I don't. It's sort of hard to judge, but I do think that there's so much in it that's so interesting and fascinating, and then like clarifying this kid's narrative. And again, I don't know how much of this is just what we saw or what isn't there or is there, but from what I saw, I mean, clarifying this kid's narrative is going to be everything. Like, who is he? Why does he need to know this about his grandfather? What does he lack in his own life? What is he find? Those sorts of questions. I think are going to be super, super important. And like, what is his grandfather's relationship to this guy? All of those sorts of things. And what does he learn, and what journey does he take as a result of learning that? Those sorts of arcing questions I'd like more of, because I think it is sort of like a hero's journey epic. It has that kind of like twist.
It's massively ambitious, and I loved that. I also loved the fact that I didn't miss that there was no recognisable tune, because the textures were always supporting the action. And when that happens, I dismiss my kind of that you have to have a recognisable tune that repeats or whatever, because I submit to the drama of it, which happens to be sung, and that's always my best theatre. So I absolutely adored it, I have to say, and I loved its theatricality. Having the dead father on, I went, thank you, we're in a theatre where we can do that.
Totally
and it's sort of the difference between Beauty and the Beast and Lion King. Lion King, the problems are solved theatrically. Beauty and the Beast is just a really expensive version of the film. It's the most expensive pantomime you'll ever see. Lion King works because problems are solved theatrically, and in the same way that this was. Dead father, people coming out of the woodwork. I thought it was. I'd happily hear another 3/4 of an hour about it.
I think it's worth mentioning, just based on the whole creative process, which I love. We chose this piece A because it's such a beautiful score, but B because she was inspired by a photograph of a highway through the deserts in the US, and it was just a bunch of spray painted numbers on a road. And that was her inspiration for those who had fallen in the Korean War. I think there's such an interesting little teeny tiny snippet of this massively layered, beautiful story that I would love to see more of. So now, for you guys, anything from you about that one in particular?
What was it like to sing?
It was great.
Did it keep on yielding to you as actors? Because I always think that's a really great parameter. Does it keep on asking more questions than it solves, and therefore it's a greater piece of art for me? Is more questions than answers.
That's a question.
Yeah. Shoot, thank you.
Yeah, it was, I don't know, you just keep, it's one of those ones where I just kept on finding new lines again. You sort of read it and then you think like, oh, actually maybe it could mean this and this and this and this. One of those great things that I think you could just play differently every night, but at the same time, it's clear. Like it just, I don't know, it allows for character and a choice, but at the same time, and it's definitely got a way it's going, but at the same time it feels flexible, like a real person, I guess.
For me, you seemed more fired as an acting company doing that piece. grab onto.
There's something just sort of in my head is that these are obviously different stages.
Yes, good.
It's layering it up with the all 5 different stages.
Absolutely.
The process.
So each piece, like you said, is that it is all in different stages. So this one in particular, I think, is perhaps the last is in its sort of more finished format as far as a little chunk to present. Whereas, let's say with our singular, like plural, I was getting slides through this morning and working on them. So I think that's what's so beautiful about this process, that everything is at different stages, and what's great is that there's as much to work on with each within their stages. So yes, this is on to the next, which is Table and Chair Take the Air by Taylor Hoffman, with our representative Max, who is from who's from New York, but is now studying at RADA.
That's right.
Oh. Hello. Cool. Take it away, gang.
Well, I just said I never thought I'd care so much about furniture. That's my note. I mean, it's just brilliantly bonkers. It's fun. It's I just had a smile all the way through. I didn't like much diet. I think that these guys probably can more better than I could. I just enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. And I think obviously he had a lot of prep to it. You guys, it was the first one you were saying, weren't you? You were all off book for that, I think.
Yeah. Originally we thought that was going to be the hardest one to learn, but somehow it's done.
Yeah, it's just that.
Yeah.
So it was, for me, it was just, I loved it.
Well, the first thing I wrote down was Unicorn Theatre, because they should be doing it. But the Unicorn does sort of serious children's drama, and there is, I would love it. I had a father who died thinking he was James Bond because he had Alzheimer's. So I'm interested to see whether the Lear sections, the darker sections where it's just the writer, whether how much the world of him being in a retirement home and losing his memory, things happen where maybe the nurse, the carer won't allow him to sit at his normal chair, which leads to the story of Chair and Table. So I'm interested in there being 2 storylines, one of where you teach children about senility and Alzheimer's through the medium of a really joyous musical, and then you have something that's really interesting where you're teaching children about mortality and age and senility through these really wonderful stories. So I'd love for them to explore the Lear world, which then informs the reasons why the stories are made.
Great. On that note as well, I think it's important for you to know as well that the table and chair are meant to be 2 gentlemen, 2 tenors, or potentially a tenor and a super alternate. But with the hope to have sort of subtle, just 2 gentlemen can be companions on the road, and that journey that they can share together. Trevor was keen on bringing that relationship to the forefront as well. So it's important to mention that.
Yeah, I thought it was. I agree completely with what you were saying. I think it's very much at the moment. What we saw was very much the part of the show that's aimed towards educating and informing and entertaining an audience of children, and that's great. And there's so many ways for that. It's completely adorable, and I love that part of it. But yes, to make it into a show that would be considered producible and to have that wider appeal, there definitely needs to be that element of why is this happening? Where does this stem from in this amount of time?
Why does the singer need the song?
Yeah. I think that's, as an audience, you always want to learn about the origins of this and the guy. And I think that what you were saying about seeing the real world and it being, again, I'm stating it now, but
that being totally spoken as opposed to the musical world of the fantasies. Which is sort of where Kiss of the Spider-Woman breaks down, is because it keeps on fudging when they sing in the prison cell and when they are in the fantasy, which is always my problem with the Kiss of the Spider-Woman. But here you could have 2 separate worlds, one grey and spoken, and then the fantasy worlds, which are colourful and primary colours and sun. Would be, I don't think that's been done before. So I think that may be something they want to re-encourage.
There's so much ways that it can be done. I think that's exciting.
Yeah, then it's for these like parables, like according to this crazy guy. I mean, I just thought it was wonderful. I thought it was so charming, so delightful. Yeah, I mean, my biggest question is, okay, this is one of many. Is it just a series of vignettes? And it's sort of the thing we're all asking, which is like, how does this turn into a full piece? But I mean, it's so lovely. So keep going. That's what I think.
Any other bits and pieces from you guys at all about that?
I suppose the other world could be the world of the writers, and seeing what influenced them to write the show, something like that, like mind the writers.
Well, if it's set with Lear's poems or inspired by that, and you've got this sub-story about Lear losing his mind, that's more interesting than seeing writers, because then you're constantly reminded that it is a non-truth in these stories, whereas if you're basing on Lear and his senility, it is a truth of a kind.
Okay.
So I think you won't get that disconnect of going, oh, I think it's warmer. It burns more if it's about Lear and his senility and then his fantasy world.
Especially for me, singing it, that song in particular feels very kind of Southgate-esque.
Yes, absolutely.
So if that kind of dark comparison juxtaposition can make it more of a real piece, and the colourful song can be inside anyone's mind. I mean, we all have daydreams, and God only knows what the monkey inside my head does. But really stretch the two ends of it out so that it doesn't just feel like a cartoon. Because that, with Southgate, that's already been done.
Yeah, definitely.
That's what makes it so accessible to a huge audience, like a huge demographic, really. As well as being educational to children in a nursery rhyme, essentially, and teaching them about things like, life and aging and, your mind can deteriorate. All those things in a really colourful way. You also have something that's so entertaining for an adult to be like, these songs are jivey, but they're also heartfelt in that kind of narrative way.
Like Emily said, it's kind of like the Pixar of musical potential that is intended for the younger audience. It's so not.
I think this could be the new Singing Detective. Does anyone remember the Singing Detective? Check it out. About a man who has psoriasis and he's dying in a hospital bed, but he goes on fantasies, and it's all to do with 1920s and 1930s songs, and the nurses start singing, and then they do tap routines, and so I think get them to check out Singing Detective in the fact of reality versus fantasy and how they've done that. Michael Gambon.
Such a good writer, that Trevor.
Yeah, he's great. That was sort of my question when you were talking about the style of music, really, in terms of making it appropriate for a wide range of audiences. Because it's so contemporary and dissonant, and I'm wondering how does that read for you? And because all of his stuff is very much like very contemporary, hyper crazy, riffy, poppy, like all over the place. Which sounds really cool to me, but I'm wondering how that reads for some older audiences and maybe for children as well.
I think if it's in a certain context and in the right setting, and that sound feels like it's coming at you, as this song very much did, for a reason, like the kind of things that we've been discussing, then it totally makes sense and it totally should be there, and it's fantastic. It just needs to be. It needs to be in context. It needs to be contrasted with something else. That's it. Because otherwise, I mean, if it was a 90-minute show of just those kind of songs and nothing really to put them there for a reason, it would be a wonderful, batshit crazy afternoon.
I know what you mean, because it's not an Edwardian sound, which is what Lear would have in his head. But the bar has been set with Spring Awakening, that people can go into fantasy world and it be a completely different sound world than what you would expect from children in 1890. So I think it's, so long as you're consistent with the sound, we will buy the contract.
Yeah, I mean, within your own mind, you can imagine anything. like within your own mind, you can sound like Zoltar. You can sound like, you know, Darth Vader if you want. Like you can sound like whatever you want. So yeah, if it's this thing in the real world and then this is sound, that's not a hard thing to make. But you have to make it, like you have to say, this is why.
I mean, it could be about the mindless TV that they put on these old folks in the home, like SpongeBob or whatever. They just switch it on, and that's where it goes to. Is the SpongeBob world of whatever children's TV is on at the time. I mean, that's another thing. Quite.
I think a big reason why I chose this one, read it for time, I think. 1 minute, was the fact that it's so contemporary and it's so relevant musically, but it is an opera.
Yeah.
It is sung through opera essentially, and that is what I think is so exciting about, especially this writer, this sense of new musical theatre, is that you're able to create these relevant sounds and still have a new sense of pushing the envelope musically and also storytelling in different ways. We have to wrap it up. So Susan, get over here. Can you get over here?
Yes.
So Susan and I are just absolutely thrilled that this is happening, that these from scratch nights are continuing and people are submitting this stuff, and hopefully it'll grow and get bigger and bigger, and that people feel confident and safe. Sue doesn't use this word, to just come up here and show their work and to air their work in whatever stage it should be. And to just work as a community, because it's so rare that we're able to just get together and I have this idea and let's try it out and what do you think of it? And blah, 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 blah. That's what it's all about, and it is, as cliche as it is, all about being friends of friends of friends. We are friends, we have to support each other. If we don't support each other, who's going to support us? No one. So, Suze.
Thank you very much for coming. Thank you so much to our panel. So much to our cast. Need to clear out because the band needs to set up. But grab a drink, linger, say hi.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Go, go, go.